Hello, my name is Athena. Welcome to my channel. As you probably saw from the trailer of my channel, this is going to be a channel focused on my journey to convert a bus. This bus, actually. This is a school bus I bought. It was government surplus, and I'm going to be converting it into a mobile home, a Skoolie. This journey altogether is probably going to take a couple months, but I'm hoping to make progress pretty quickly on the first parts of this bus. Today, I'm going to be beginning the process of removing all of these chairs. If I can finish that today, which I probably won't be able to, but once I'm done with that, I'm going to be removing the interior paneling, and I'll then start the process of doing anti-rust kind of coating as well as insulation to make it so that it will be able to retain more heat once it is done. Now, if any of you have any feedback for ways to improve this bus or do things maybe a little bit easier, or just doing things in a different way that maybe you have found to be easier for yourself, for those of you who have done projects like this in the past in your own lives, I would appreciate any kind of advice or tips you can provide. And as I work through this process, I will be more than happy to provide the knowledge that I discover as I do this process to the rest of the Skoolie community and to anyone watching along on YouTube or Instagram. As you see me in the background doing this process, unbolting these chairs, removing them, taking them kind of out of view, as I'm doing that, I'm going to be explaining kind of my plans for this bus. You'll see some footage interlaced with drawings, sketches I've done, kind of blueprints I've planned out for this bus. I've done a lot of planning over the years for this project, and I have a lot of ideas that I'm hoping to implement at some point during this process. So I hope that you enjoy this video, and I hope that you feel drawn to watching me complete this journey over the next couple of months on my Instagram and on my YouTube channels. Thank you.
Now, the video you're watching today consists of the first week of my work, from Monday to Sunday. I think going forward, I'm going to try to upload a video every Friday, showcasing the prior week's work. What you're watching right now is the first step that I need to take in order to strip out the bus. This was the removal of the cushions for the chairs. At first, I thought I could simply remove all of them together, but I realized that in order to properly unbolt the chairs and get them out of there, I would need to take the cushions off first. This, thankfully, wasn't too difficult. I just had to unscrew the bottom cushions from the underside of the chairs, and they popped right out. The top cushions were a little bit harder. I had to cut open the seats and kind of wiggle the cushions out, tearing off the leather which was stapled to the chair. But ultimately, I got all of the cushions out of there over the course of a day or two. Thankfully, it was fall when I began this project. Even despite that, however, I was beginning to overheat from the physical effort. I had to take somewhat frequent breaks, so if you see cuts in the video, that's why. The next step was sweeping up a lot of the screws, bits, dust, and other things from under the chairs. At some point, I realized that I wouldn't be able to simply unbolt the chairs. I was going to have to angle grind the bolt heads off, and the last thing I wanted was anything lying around on the floor, which could catch fire. What you see me doing now is unbolting the parts of the chairs which were attached to the side of the bus rather than the floor. Unlike the floor bolts, these ones I could unbolt, thankfully, which probably saved a good amount of time and effort. This process took me a bit of time, but I felt up to this point that I had been making pretty good progress. Finally, it had become time to angle grind. Now, for much of the beginning of this, you won't be able to see much of the angle grinding itself, but this becomes much more visible in the later stages. I think it's important to note that I'd never really done anything like this project before. It was very much a first in many senses of the word for me. The closest thing I think I have previously done to this project was the creation of my queen-sized loft bed, which I built myself. But I'd never angle grinded before, and to be honest, aside from watching numerous Skoolie conversion videos ever since I was a kid, I'd never really learned, much less practiced, how to do the things this project entailed. But to me, that was a part of the attraction to this project. Learning new skills, trying out things that I had never done before, and learning to create something new. The process of angle grinding was, I think, probably one of the more difficult steps of the beginning of this project. Despite the cold temperatures outside, I overheated quite easily and my goggles fogged up often. But as I continued to work on this part, it was also one of the most rewarding steps. As I slowly cleared the benches out of the bus, I began to really get a better idea of just how much space I had to work with. This let me really start to plan for the future of this project. I'd already speculated on blueprints and rough layouts, but at this point I really began to be able to actually envision them, kind of see them within the bus. One of the earlier problems I ran into, and one I still need to address, is these two heaters resting on the floor of the bus. It seems, to me, that they are directly included in the coolant circulation loop of the bus. At some point, I tried to detach them, but fluid began leaking out. I'd like to shorten and close the loop without the heaters, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to do that without losing a bunch of coolant. With the benches mostly finished, I ran into the most difficult one by far, This singular bench by the side emergency exit was set up in a way that made it absolutely infuriating to try and grind away the bolt heads without also cutting into the coolant loop or the walls. Thankfully, I did eventually manage to get it out with a lot of work. The next step was briefly sweeping again, and then just trying to generally neaten up the bus. After that, I began to strip the railings, holding the central mat in place. This was the place the children would have walked when this was a school bus. My plans for the layout, however, involved a slightly off-centered hallway, and I wanted to do my own custom flooring anyways, so I didn't need this mat. After removing all the railing, I pulled it up and moved it out of the way. The next step was beginning to work on the mats and the other parts of the bus. I tried to start with the wheel wells, but realized I'd first need to remove the railings at the sides of the bus. The left side was far easier and quicker than the right, so I started with that and then pulled out the mats. The other side, the one with the coolant loop leading to the heaters, was a bit more difficult, frustratingly. Thankfully, I had a friend to help, and they also brought some tools for me to borrow. Together, we slowly began to get the metal casing off of the tubes, and eventually, the mats were freed. We started with the wheel wells and then worked our way from back to front, slowly peeling out the mats. Beneath the mats was the plywood floor that they were screwed into. It wasn't in great shape, and I imagine the metal underneath it wouldn't be either, so this would have to go as well eventually. But for now, it was time to organize the debris I'd ripped out and get ready to take it out of the way. Now, I'd figured that I could take most of the trash itself to a nearby junkyard, which I did, but the scrap metal, I realized, I could sell to a scrapyard for, admittedly, a small but not insignificant amount of money. So it probably would be in my best interest to pull out the metal platings on the interior bus as well, since I intended to get rid of them and build custom interior walls after replacing the insulation that was already there, and more importantly, applying an anti-rust coating to the inside of the outer walls before the insulation. I realized I needed to start with the upper wall panels first, and then move on to the lower wall panels. After that, I again tried to remove the lower wall panels, as you can see here. However, I eventually realized that the windows would need to come out first, so I decided to spend the rest of the day beginning to detach the interior roof panels, as I figured that would be the better thing to do before the windows, so that the inside of the bus would still be protected from the elements. The Sunday ended with that, and I came back the next day to begin my second week, as you will see next Friday. To everyone who has stayed and watched the whole video, I greatly appreciate you. If you're interested, you might consider subscribing to this YouTube channel to see more full-length videos like this one every Friday, or following my Instagram to see pictures and short form content. Or, if you're feeling particularly generous, even subscribing to my Patreon for varying benefits. I'm really looking forward to taking this journey with all of you, and I hope that you are as well. And if you are, I will see you next Friday.